Kenyans on Tuesday, 8th of August 2022 will turn out in large numbers to vote for the wrong leaders yet again. Yes, wrong leaders. The question is, what do we expect to change after the general elections? Nothing. Honestly, it's like an out of the frying pan into the fire kind of scenario. It will only get worse for us. I hate the election period and I'm glad it's over. It's been a whole 2 years of constant politics. And usually in Kenya, that means petty tribal politics. It's like we forget how hard life has been. We forget about the insecurity, we forget about the people dying from hunger, we forget about how difficult it is for us to find jobs and access government services when we need them. Our politicians have found a foolproof way of making us Kenyans look like absolute idiots during the general elections. It's like we have two brains. Our normal rational brain. This is usually preceded by a mega corruption scandal. And at that point, we boldly claim that at the next general election, we're going to send all the corrupt leaders home. But then we have our electioneering brain. And this one will support our politicians, whatever the cost. And then you must give it up to the Kenyan media for their constant commitment to bombarding us with endless political news, mostly characterized by misinformation. They subtly and openly incite us. The last 2 years have looked somewhat of an endless, distasteful circus. We have two men who, one is going to be president come Tuesday. They claim they can change our lives, yet they have been in power in various capacity, and they failed to provide us with evidence that they can actually change our lives. And this includes the current deputy president. He's in power, but he's busy telling us, who's at fault for the high prices of unga? It's him, and he's not in power. He's in power. But we are not questioning any of this. How can you be in leadership for over 20 years and still have nothing to show for it? How are you going to change our lives? And yet, again, we have the Azimio la Umoja candidates, including their chief, who's standing for president, telling Kenyan women to abstain from having sex with their men on election night or the night before the elections. Apparently, sex makes Kenyan men foolish. Elections bring out the worst in us as Kenyans. Elections shows us that we are not ready for good leaderships. We don't aspire to live a good life in this world. I guess suffering is okay, because if we suffer here, guess what? We are assured of a good life in heaven. And so we'll vote for wrong leaders and suffer here on earth, because we'll get our mansion and we'll be walking in streets paved with gold in heaven. What a political circus. Whoever wins, Kenya Kwanza or Azimio la Umoja, whoever wins in this general election, Kenya loses. We all lose, including the countless Kenyans, the millions who will take on the roads to celebrate their candidate winning. You'd think that they have won the lottery or something, yet they will have condemned the entire country to another 5 years of endless corruption and mismanagement. So many ordinary Kenyans fail to consider the sort of life we have to endure living in Kenya. Young people struggle to get jobs, but on Tuesday, they will vote for politicians who care very little about them. And then after that, they'll spend the next 5 years praying to God to help them get work. And then they will accuse their aunties and ancestors of bewitching them. Oh yeah, that's why they're unable to get jobs. The country has become so unsafe. We walk in fear, in utter fear, in the streets of Nairobi in broad daylight, let alone under the cover of darkness. We are not safe in or out of our homes. Insecurity and road accidents threaten to finish us. The healthcare is appalling. How many more of our relatives and neighbors do we have to lose before we wake up? The grief of losing loved ones through premature deaths, and not by imaginary spirits, but through poor healthcare, is unimaginable. Have you ever visited a public Kenyan hospital? Do you trust them with your life? We vote for bad leaders, then complain against overworked, underpaid doctors and nurses in under-equipped public hospitals. How hard is it to invest in Kenya? We are defrauded by government offices and businesses registered by the very government meant to safeguard us. If not, we are under the mercy of criminals who will not let us enjoy the fruits of our hard labor. What about those droughts and floods which are a common occurrence in Kenya? We could prevent people from dying, but we don't. Kenya is a land full of plenty, but for the few. We will vote for bad leaders, then ask God to save us from the consequences of our actions. And when He doesn't, we will blame God, Satan, imaginary marine spirits, your mother's and father's relatives, even those who died years ago for diseases, death, poverty caused by our very actions. Doesn't the Bible say, do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever a man sows, that he shall also reap. You vote for bad leaders, you shall reap diseases, death, and utter poverty, regardless of what prosperity preachers say. There are people with active murder cases who are standing in this election, and we shall vote them in. There are candidates who have been implicated in the illegal drugs trade in Kenya, but we shall vote them in on Tuesday just because they are standing with the right party, with our man. They are from our tribe. It's like the drug pandemic is not destroying our youths, like it's not taking away their lives and forcing them to turn into a life of crime. It's not like we have enough rehabilitation centers anyway. Most of these leaders we're just recycling. They have no development record, and that includes Mother Karua. Yes, women, representation does not equal liberation, but I guess it's our time to eat as well. Proverbs 19 verses 3 states, a person's own folly leads to their ruin, yet their heart rages against God. We are double-minded and unstable in all that we do as Kenyans, and that is why our politicians are able to toss us around like waves of the sea. And the Bible clearly states, such persons who are unstable and double-minded should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. You vote for the wrong leaders on Tuesday, and guess what? You'll spend the next 5 years typing, I receive in Jesus' name, under the feel-good and prosper messages of Prophet Lucy Natasha, or Baby Tasha, as our partner in crime calls her, on Facebook or even Instagram. I guess if you want more personalized prophecies, you could pay $100 and then she'll tell you when in the month of August you're going to receive a permanent and well-paying job. Listen carefully. After this general election, when your loved one is struggling to find work, or they cannot access adequate healthcare, or are in immense pain and are dying from preventable diseases, don't you dare say it's God's will. It's not. Don't blame it on Satan or marine spirits or even your relatives. It's not your mother's aunt or sisters who have bewitched you. Have the courage to look in the mirror and hold yourself accountable. We fear beings we cannot see, yet our greatest enemies are those we cannot see. This time, let us be brave to remind one another as Kenyans when things go wrong, when we are facing such unimaginable pain and grief, that it's not God. It's not God. It's you.